Hello everyone, it's Merlin here. And I have another first impressions video to make, and this one will be another anime series that I viewed when I went to Setsucon earlier, and that would be Fairy Tail. Now, up to this point of this video, I've only read some of the Fairy Tail manga, and everything else other than that has pretty much been hearsay. And a lot of what I've heard about Fairy Tail going in has been mixed at best. I've heard in the way of good things for Fairy Tail. So I will admit that going into this, my expectations were somewhat low, but I figured, hey, might as well use this opportunity to at least get a general idea of, from the first 5 episodes or so that I watched, how I feel about the anime. So I went in with relatively low expectations, but I tried not to go in feeling biased. I really wasn't that biased going in. I just had no idea what to expect. I guess the best thing I could say about those first episodes would be it's okay. Get a few positives out there just so it doesn't seem like I'm completely bashing because I have a feeling it'll definitely lean that way. I thought the music was kick ass. Like, the music was amazing. They had some really awesome rock themes that really got you into the moment, especially when the action scenes picked up. The music I thought was fantastic. I loved the music. And also the opening was really good. I actually thought that it could have been better, certainly. It certainly could have been better, but it was a pretty decent opening. I was like, it's enjoyable. Decent opening. I enjoyed the music. I thought the animation was actually pretty good. It was very fluid and it was very clear. Pretty standard, really. I don't want to say that it really stands out because it doesn't, but I mean it's good animation. Pretty much what you'd expect these days. Not really bad. Let's get into the characters. At first, it felt to me like there was a little bit of trouble establishing who the main characters were. I would say that from the initial point of the series, it definitely seems like Lucy is the main character, but Natsu seemed like he was supposed to be the main character at points. And it was really odd because I find it kind of interesting because Natsu does seem like he can be a badass. Like, he's got some cool abilities, he's got a cool personality, but at the same time, he's got an interesting backstory and he's got some elements of darkness to him. But on the other hand, they play him off as a goofy, clumsy kind of character. So oftentimes the humor would often interject with a lot of the more serious moments with his character and with a lot of other more serious moments in the show. This is one thing that I really noticed a lot. Based upon what I saw, I confess I don't understand the hate for Natsu based upon that. I mean, I'll get to this a little bit later. I understand some of the hate for him, but not because of his character. I actually thought his character wasn't bad. I was kind of interested in his backstory about being raised by a dragon, which is how he learned his magical power, and the fact that he can eat fire and he's a fire user. I mean, that's cool. It's kind of unique. I thought that was interesting. On the whole, I definitely feel like Natsu was an okay main character. I mean, I definitely felt like there were some elements of Luffy and Goku and even Gon in there to some extent, but he's, I think, being his own character. I could see some rip-off qualities, but he was unique enough. I thought he was okay. I didn't hate Natsu as much as I thought I was going to. At least not because of his character. Lucy, on the other hand, I switched back and forth. Sometimes I thought she was really annoying and really arrogant and just really bitchy, honestly. But then again, there were other points where I thought that she was very clever, she was kind of witty, and I sort of enjoyed her. I thought Lucy overall seemed like she's the most fleshed out character thus far, and she'll definitely go places. I would hope. At the end of the day, I didn't mind following Lucy's character. I thought she was fairly enjoyable as well. I also liked her powers with the various keys. Actually, I'll be honest, I liked her summons a bit more than I actually liked her. Particularly the clock. It's freaking awesome. And the water maiden was pretty cool. I like the fact that she's still getting a hang of a lot of her powers with her celestial abilities. I thought that was pretty awesome. I mean, so as far as the uniqueness of her abilities, I gotta say that was kind of interesting seeing her play off against many of the different beings she has a contract with. So Lucy, on the whole, was okay. And from what I saw, Urza, well, she's just a badass. As far as the other members of Fairy Tail, well, a lot of them didn't get fleshed out too much. They all seemed somewhat memorable, at least, but I mean, none of them really seemed like great characters that really stood out. I'm sorry, but if your primary character trait is that you have this problem with keeping your clothes on, I mean, it's not the most impressive thing I've ever seen. So on the whole, I thought the characters were mediocre, to be honest. They were okay. Maybe Lucy was maybe a little above mediocre. She was kind of interesting. Like, there's potential, but on the whole, they were okay. Then there's the world. This is the problem. This is one of the big problems I kind of have with this was that Another parallel I noticed with One Piece, which I picked up a lot of parallels here, is that I felt like Fairy Tail was trying to be One Piece in a lot of instances. One particular reason I noticed this was in the world building. Each episode, they would go to a different city for a different mission or a different area. Each city looked exactly the same, and they didn't spend enough time there to really ascertain whether or not these cities had any particular differences between each other. They all seemed like they were the same. So the world we're building just seems kind of confusing. You're throwing a bunch of names at me, and with nothing to really separate any of them. So that was kind of a waste. And also, this is a problem I've noticed in a lot of other series, but Fairy Tail, it was really, really obnoxiously noticeable, was how they delivered exposition about the different styles of magic and the different creatures and elements of the world. The narrator blatantly comes out and tells you what the hell's going on. Like, this is this particular user, blah, 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 blah. It would be like the narrator in Hunter x Hunter or Yu Yu Hakusho, or fucking One Piece just coming out of nowhere and saying, this is how this power works, and this is how this power works, and this is this type of, and this is this type of person, and that type of person. Normally, when that's done, it's through a character, or it's integrated through conversation in a slightly more subtle way. We know it's exposition, we know it's delivery, but usually there are smoother ways to do it than that. That was a very, very lazy aspect of writing, I noticed, that really, really irritated me. Once again, something I noticed that One Piece does better than Fairy Tail. Another aspect of One Piece versus Fairy Tail that I noticed was in the atmosphere, the tone. And in the live stream I did earlier today, somebody asked me what my favorite thing about One Piece was, and I said the atmosphere. I love the atmosphere of the series, the tone of the series. It's perfectly balanced between being lighthearted and inspirational, but also having a lot of very serious, rather grim moments that allow the characters to really come together and grow. Admittedly, it takes a long ass time in One Piece, but it gets done, and the characters have really come a long way since their initial chapters. I'm not saying that characters in Fairy Tail don't get to this point, because I have a feeling they do. Based upon what I've seen, they are definitely going to grow. But the atmosphere of the series, the tone of the series, at least in the way the anime portrays it, is very, very uneven. I noticed that they were oversaturated with humor. The creators of the show did not know whether or not they wanted it to be a darker series, or a middle of the road series, or a purely comical series. They didn't know what angle to approach this. So what they do is they throw all kinds of random, fast-paced, different varieties of jokes, trying to hit every different demographic of humor they possibly can at once. So it gets a bit oversaturated and you get a bit distracted. And then it comes to a more serious moment, emotional plot point when a certain character's in danger, and it reveals an aspect of the character's backstory. Like, for instance, when Natsu goes and rescues a wizard who went off on his own to try and defeat these gorilla monsters up in the mountain, and a young boy gets upset because the members of Fairy Tail won't go out and help him, Natsu, due to his own sense of abandonment, feels that he can take it upon himself to go help the small boy that he relates to. That was an awesome character moment. I thought that was really cool. I'm like, okay, Natsu's kind of awesome. And of course, they kind of counteracted that by making him seem clumsy and silly and almost screwing up a variety of times. But still, I gave him props for that. I thought that was a cool character trait. I still think it is. But the thing is, those elements get reduced by all the random comedy. You don't have time to get fully invested in what's going on. There isn't enough time divided for the serious points and the more lighthearted points, and just the straight up middle of the road points. They don't evenly divide it. Very frustrating. In addition to this, the world itself, I kind of felt that the fact that magic was commonplace while interesting, it kind of felt like Harry Potter, except to the extreme, where I just felt that it was unnecessary to have magic used by pretty much everyone or a lot of people, and just have a couple people that were incredibly skillful with it. Why not just make most people not magic users and just have different people use different varieties of magic that have greater degrees of skill? And I liked how they tied it in. Once again, this is a shonen martial arts fighting anime because they tie in magic with your spiritual energy. And I'm thinking, wow, like this really is trying so hard. It's funny. It's Fairy Tail really is trying to be something unique, and it kind of is, which is one reason why I think it's caught on in popularity. And I will admit, I did find it a little bit intriguing, but they don't make it that interesting. And here comes to perhaps the biggest complaint I had about it, and that would be the fights. These fights were some of the most exciting and ultimately underwhelming fights I have seen in a while, because in the few fights that I saw, there was some really good potential for great action here. And it starts off great. They build up each bad guy like, oh, this is going to be a real challenge for our heroes to overcome. And then, of course, you see that final attack coming on that Natsu uses. And trust me, by the second or third time I saw it, I understood the main problem people had with Fairy Tail going in. And yeah, it was starting to annoy me that quickly. Yes, those fights end way too quickly. I'm sorry, that in fact, the entire storyline moves too quickly. So much stuff is happening that is not essential to the plots of the individual episodes that you barely have time to absorb what's going on. Now, I will admit the episode with the author that was abducted by the Duke and forced to write a storyline for years, but was secretly writing a letter to his son inscribed with magical charm, that was pretty cool. I have to admit, I thought that was kind of clever. But once again, the emotional aspects really didn't last long enough, and of course were constantly interrupted by humor. Like literally in the conversation, as the son is giving his speech, Happy or somebody makes some kind of comment which completely takes you out of the serious moment. Like the show just doesn't seem to have enough confidence in its audience. But there's enough stuff going on to distract you that I guess you could call it entertaining. So in summation to my first impressions on Fairy Tail, the anime, I think Natsu is potentially an interesting character. I think he's got some interesting aspects that I do like. But on the whole, he's a little blander than I would expect. He's based upon that impression. I think that he's an interesting character, but I don't think he holds a candle to a lot of the great shonen main protagonists. Lucy, I actually kind of liked, but on the whole, I'd kind of like to see where her development would go. But at the same time, there's no great investment for me. Urza seemed like a badass. I thought she was really cool, and I'd actually be curious to see what happens with her. I like her powers, and she really is awesome. I have to say, Urza was pretty damn cool. Definitely a strong point for the series. As for the other characters, they seemed likable, semi-memorable, but like I said, there isn't really too much developed with them right at the moment that I could really judge them fully, so I'd keep them on the back burner. The world seems interesting, but there's a lot of information being rushed out too quickly that I can't really fully absorb what's going on. The rules and the powers seem really cool and interesting, and there's a lot of potential for great battles, but once again, a lot of cool ideas explored, but implemented too quickly. Maybe there are some cutbacks on animation budgets, I'm not really sure. But for whatever reason, a lot of very underwhelming fights. Very uneven atmosphere. Some of the humor worked for me. I did definitely laugh a few times. Other times I was kind of groaning. Some of the serious moments actually felt almost dark, but never quite got fully explored on for more than 30 seconds, so I didn't feel completely pulled into any of the more serious moments. But it had some kick-ass music and some pretty decent animation, so on the whole, am I planning on watching Fairy Tail anytime soon? Not really. I'll be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure if I should pick it up. I'll ask you guys now. I know that most of you, fellow reviewers of mine, and some of my subscribers really don't like Fairy Tail, but I know there are some Fairy Tail fans out there. I'll be honest, based upon this, I'm not a big fan. I think the show is okay at best. I think it's okay. I can understand maybe if you like it, but I could also stand why people would despise it. Personally, I'd have no great love for the show, but I think there are some things that I see potential in that I am curious about. So, on the whole, I would say that my final statement about Fairy Tail is that it is okay. Kind of. Alright, guys. Those are my first impressions on Fairy Tail. Kind of a little mini review there of the first 4 or 5 episodes. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. This is Merlin, signing off again. Until next time, peace.